Welcome to Whmis 2015, short form or acronym for Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System. Whmis is a Canada-wide system created by government, business, and labor to protect the health and safety of everyone who works with or near hazardous workplace materials. Canada has aligned Whmis with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, GHS. GHS was developed by the United Nations to establish globally a common set of rules for classifying hazardous products, labels, and a standard format for safety data sheets or SDSs, formerly known as Material Safety Data Sheets or MSDSs. GHS does not replace Whmis. A hazardous product is the name given to a product, material, or substance that is capable of posing significant risk to health, safety, and property. These products are regulated by Whmis 2015 and fall into hazard classes and categories, each uniquely identified by a pictogram, that is, symbol, for quick recognition.
1. Hazardous material container labels supply basic information about the product, along with pictograms that highlight the potential dangers. All containers of hazardous materials must be properly labeled. 2. Safety data sheets, or SDSs for short, contain comprehensive information about hazardous materials, including their content and/or ingredients, directions for proper use, correct cleanup and first aid procedures. An SDS must be available to workers for every hazardous product that is used. 3. Education to ensure anyone working with hazardous materials knows the potential dangers and the correct handling methods for these products. Under Whmis regulation, you have a right to know about the hazardous materials in your workplace. Your employer is responsible to train you and those who work in proximity to hazardous materials.
The two most important parts of Whmis are labels and safety data sheets. There are two main types of labels: supplier labels and workplace labels. SDSs or supplier labels will show a signal word that indicates the severity of the hazard, if assigned. Danger and warning. Danger is used for the more severe hazards, and warning is used for less severe hazards. Only one word will appear on the SDS or supplier label. If the product is both a danger and warning, you will see the word danger printed. The supplier label is affixed to the product container by the supplier. The label must be shown in English and French and contain the following information: product identifier, hazard pictogram or pictograms, signal word, hazard statements, precautionary statements, supplier identification. First aid is included in precautionary statements. The hazard pictogram that appears on the supplier label is very important. It provides you with information about the primary hazard posed by a product. It also indicates whether the product is dangerous to touch or breathe, is easily combustible, unstable, or reacts negatively when mixed with other materials. Look for a pictogram that is framed by a red square set on a point. The exception is the biohazard pictogram, which is in a round black border.
Along with supplier labels, you may come across workplace labels. This is a simplified version of a supplier label and may be used when hazardous materials are made in the workplace or when hazardous materials are poured from the original container into another container. The employer is responsible for affixing workplace labels to these containers. The label requires 3 pieces of information. 1. Product's name. 2. Safe handling procedures. 3. A reference to the SDS if available. This label does not require hazard pictograms or signal word.
A safety data sheet is a much more detailed listing of key information about a hazardous product. It contains more data than can fit on a label. The SDS is required to be updated within 90 days when the supplier becomes aware of any significant new data. Before you start using a product, know the hazards, how to safely handle and store the product, and know what to do in an emergency. Your supervisor must inform you of the location of SDSs in your department. SDSs should be in an area that is readily accessible at all times, on all shifts, for all workers. There are 16 sections in a safety data sheet. Section 1, Identification, provides product name, supplier information, and recommended use and restrictions on use. Section 2, Hazard Identification, lists the hazard classification, class and category of the substance or mixture or a description of the identified hazard. Section 3, composition or information on ingredients, lists the chemical name, common name and synonyms and concentration. Section 4, first aid measures, explains the first aid measures by route of exposure, inhalation, skin contact, eye contact, and ingestion. Section 5, firefighting measures, lists the specific hazards arising from the hazardous product and how to safely extinguish. Section 6, accidental release measures, describes personal precautions, protective equipment, and emergency procedures. Section 7, handling and storage, lists the precautions for safe handling and storage. Section 8, exposure controls and/or personal protection, deals with appropriate engineering controls and individual protection measures. Section 9, physical and chemical properties, describes the product's physical characteristics, such as whether it is a gas, a liquid, or a solid, its color and appearance, its boiling and freezing points. Section 10, stability and reactivity, describes the product's reactivity and possibility of hazardous reactions. Section 11, toxicological information, provides complete description of the various toxic health effects and the data used to identify those effects. Section 12, ecological information, lists other adverse effects. Section 13, disposable considerations, deals with information on the safe handling for disposal and methods of disposal. Section 14, transport information, provides the shipping, labeling, and special precautions. Section 15, regulatory information, lists the safety, health, and environmental regulations specific to the product. Section 16, other information, provides the date of the latest revision of the SDS. An SDS can look intimidating, and it does contain a lot of complex scientific information. The important sections to read are sections 2, 4, 8, and 11. These will provide you with important information on the ways this material could affect your health, what you must do to use this product safely, for example, what protective clothing to wear, and what first aid is necessary should something go wrong. Remember that referring to the SDS is the safest way to learn how to use, handle, and store hazardous materials.
Hazardous products can be harmful to your health if you do not limit your exposure to them. As you handle these materials, you'll need to know whether they are health hazards or physical hazards. A health hazard is the ability of a chemical to affect your health quickly, burn, or over a long period of time, cancer or lead poisoning. A physical hazard is a sudden reaction such as a fire, explosion, or corrosion. Physical hazards are controlled by handling chemicals properly. For example, Whmis defines physical hazards as flammable gases, flammable aerosols, gases under pressure, etc. The most effective way to control exposures to hazardous materials is at the source, by eliminating, substituting, or isolating the hazard. The second best control is along the path. This includes the use of controls such as general ventilation, barriers, or shields. The least satisfactory method for controlling a hazard is at the worker. This includes personal protective equipment, job rotation, and good personal hygiene.
When a material is listed as a hazardous product, the manufacturer must treat the product according to Whmis regulations. Part of this regulation is to classify it according to a hazard class. Whmis 2015 has many hazard classes. The class describes the different types of hazards. For example, flammable solids is a hazard class. Each hazard class is further split into categories or subcategories. For example, Category 1 is always more hazardous than Category 2 or 3. The assigned hazard class and category are a guide to the type of hazard, degree of hazard, and the precautions to follow. Some products present more than one hazard and can belong to more than one hazard class. Let's look at each of the physical hazard classes and associated categories to learn more. The flame pictogram is used to signify flammable classes. Flammable gases, Category 1. Flammable aerosols, Category 1 and 2. Flammable liquids, Category 1, 2, and 3. And flammable solids, Category 1 and 2. The four classes cover products that have the ability to ignite, catch fire, easily, and the main hazards are fire or explosion. Pyrophoric liquids, solids, and gases, Category 1. These products can catch fire very quickly, spontaneously, if exposed to air. Self-heating substances and mixtures, Category 1 and 2. The products may catch fire if exposed to air. They differ from pyrophoric liquids or solids in that they will ignite only after a longer period of time or when in large amounts. Substances and mixtures in contact with water emit flammable and/or explosive gases, Category 1, 2, and 3. As the class name suggests, these products react with water to release flammable gases. In some cases, the flammable gases may ignite very quickly, spontaneously. Self-reactive substances and mixtures, types B, C, D, E, and F. These products may react on their own to cause a fire or explosion, or may cause a fire or explosion if heated. Both the flame and the explosive pictograms are used for type B. Organic peroxides, types B, C, D, E, and F. These products may cause a fire or explosion if heated. Both the flame and the explosive pictograms are used for type B. Examples of flammables that may be found at work and at home include gasoline, propane, butane, and paint thinner. As a precaution, you should keep away from heat, hot surfaces, sparks, open flames, and other ignition sources. Keep the container tightly closed. Ground and bond the container and receiving equipment. Take action to prevent static discharges. Wear protective gloves, protective clothing, eye protection, and face protection.
The flame over circle pictogram is used to indicate oxidizer classes. Oxidizing gases, Category 1, oxidizing liquids, Category 1, 2, and 3, and oxidizing solids, Category 1, 2, and 3. The three classes cover oxidizers that may cause an explosion or fire or intensify a fire. Examples of oxidizers that may be found at work and home include hydrogen peroxide, chlorine, and sodium chlorate. As a precaution, you should keep away from heat, hot surfaces, sparks, open flames, and other ignition sources. Keep away from clothing and other combustible materials. Wear protective gloves, eye protection, and face protection. Wear fire-resistant or flame-retardant clothing.
The gas cylinder pictogram is used to identify the compressed gas class. Gases under pressure. This class includes compressed gases, liquefied gases, dissolved gases, and refrigerated liquefied gases. They are hazardous because of the high pressure inside the cylinder or container. Examples of gases under pressure that may be found at work and at home include propane, acetylene, and compressed air. As a precaution, you should handle cylinders with care. Do not drop them. Keep cylinders away from direct heat like furnaces or open flames. Store cylinders in areas designated by your supervisor.
The corrosion pictogram is used to signify the corrosive class. Corrosive to metals, Category 1. These products may be corrosive, chemically damage, or destroy to metals. Examples of corrosives that may be found at work and at home include battery acid, nitric acid, hydrochloric acid, and hydroxide solutions. As a precaution, you should keep containers tightly closed. Handle the material only when using appropriate protective clothing. Handle the material in well-ventilated areas and wear proper respiratory equipment.
The exploding bomb pictogram is used to identify explosive classes. Self-reactive substances and mixtures, types A and B. These products may react on their own to cause a fire or explosion, or may cause a fire or explosion if heated. Organic peroxides, types A and B. These products may cause a fire or explosion if heated. Examples of explosives that may be found at work include a wide variety of chemicals which can explode under certain conditions, shock, pressure, or high temperature. A smaller number are manufactured specifically for the purpose of being used as explosives. As a precaution, you should keep the material away from incompatible materials and store in the areas designated by your supervisor. Keep the material away from sources of ignition. Wear the proper protective equipment and clothing, including eye, face, and hand protection.
Whmis also includes these hazards: combustible dusts, This class is used to warn of products that are finely divided solid particles. If dispersed in air, the particles may catch fire or explode if ignited. Simple asphyxiants. These products are gases that may displace oxygen in air and cause rapid suffocation. Physical hazards not otherwise classified. This class is meant to cover any physical hazards that are not covered in any other physical hazard class. If a product is classified in this class, the hazard statement on the label and SDS will describe the nature of the hazard. Next, we will review the health hazards you may encounter in the workplace.
The health hazard pictogram is used to indicate the following classes and categories. Respiratory or skin sensitization, Category 1, 1A, and 1B. A respiratory sensitizer is a product that may cause allergy or asthma symptoms or breathing difficulties if inhaled. Germ cell mutagenicity, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 2. This hazard class indicates products that may cause or are suspected of causing genetic defects. Carcinogenicity, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 2. This hazard class includes products that may cause or are suspected of causing cancer. Reproductive toxicity, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 2. This hazard class includes products that may damage or are suspected of damaging fertility or the unborn child, baby. Specific target organ toxicity, single exposure, Category 1 and 2. This hazard class covers products that cause or may cause damage to organs, for example, liver, kidneys, or blood, following a single exposure. Specific target organ toxicity, repeated exposure, Category 1 and 2. This hazard class covers products that cause or may cause damage to organs, for example, liver, kidneys, or blood, following prolonged or repeated exposure. Aspiration hazard, Category 1. This hazard class is for products that may be fatal if they are swallowed and enter the airways. Health hazards not otherwise classified. This class covers products that are not included in any other health hazard class. If a product is classified in this class, the hazard statement will describe the nature of the hazard.
The skull and crossbones pictogram is used to indicate the acute toxicity class. Acute toxicity, oral, Category 1, 2, and 3. Dermal, Category 1, 2, and 3. And inhalation, Category 1, 2, and 3. These poisonous products are fatal, toxic, or harmful if inhaled, following skin contact, or if swallowed. Acute toxicity refers to effects occurring following skin contact or ingestion exposure to a single dose or multiple doses given within 24 hours, or an inhalation exposure of 4 hours. The exclamation mark pictogram is used to identify the irritant classes. Acute toxicity, oral, dermal, and inhalation, Category 4. Skin corrosion and/or irritation, Category 2. This class covers products that cause severe skin burns, for example, corrosion, and products that cause skin irritation. Serious eye damage and/or irritation, Category 2 and 2A. Respiratory or skin sensitization, Category 1, 1A, and 1B. Specific target organ toxicity, repeated exposure, Category 3.
Look for the round black border to identify the biohazard pictogram. Biohazardous infectious materials, Category 1. These materials are microorganisms, nucleic acids, or proteins that cause or is a probable cause of infection, with or without toxicity, in humans or animals. As a precaution, you should avoid contamination by wearing protective equipment. Handle the material only when fully protected by the proper designated equipment. Handle the material in designated areas that are approved by your supervisor.
Under Whmis, there are a number of rights and responsibilities. You have the right to know about any hazards that you or your coworkers could be exposed to in the workplace. Refuse work that is unsafe. Consult with your Joint Health and Safety Committee or Health and Safety representative. You have the responsibility to attend and participate in Whmis training. Handle hazardous materials safely. Apply knowledge learned in training sessions. Review labels and SDSs prior to use. Report damaged, illegible, or missing labels or SDSs to your supervisor.
Your employer has the responsibility to implement the Whmis program, make available workplace labels and up-to-date SDSs for workers, educate and train how to interpret and use this information, prepare and maintain a chemical inventory of all hazardous materials in the workplace. The supplier has the responsibility to provide information, classify hazardous or Whmis hazardous products, provide supplier labels and SDSs. The key is to think before you act. Stop and consider what materials you are working with. What hazardous materials are present in the workplace? Read the Whmis labels on these products and their SDSs. Know the potential dangers. Understand how to use these materials to minimize risk. How to clean up these products. How to apply first aid. The goal of Whmis is to create a safe and healthy workplace. Whmis is successful only when suppliers, employers, and workers assume their responsibilities. The knowledge you have gained here will help you deal more safely with hazardous materials and keep your workplace safe from the dangers posed by these materials. This will better ensure your own safety and the safety of others.